This episode of A Conversation with John Conenna is sponsored by Generate. In today's digital age, staying ahead means harnessing the power of generative AI. Wondering how your small or medium-sized business can join this revolution? Look no further than Generate, your strategic partner for integrating cutting-edge generative AI solutions. We create personalized plans, adapting existing AI technologies to fit your specific business needs. Plus, our expert team provides essential training, empowering you to make the most of these innovative technologies. Interested in transforming your business with AI? Reach out to us at generateteam@gmail.com. That's generate, GENERAIT, team@gmail.com. And now, on with the episode.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Tonight, again, it brings me a great thrill again to bring this man on for the second time. The last time, I will never forget the last interview, because on the night we were concluding the interview, the great Chicago goaltender, Tony Esposito, had passed away that night on August 10th.
Yes.
2021. So Andre, it has been a long time. I'd like to bring into our audience, and if anybody doesn't know him, it is Andre Lacroix, the magician, a man who has played a star in the NHL, a WHA Hall of Famer, and of course, the leading scorer after it was all said and done in the WHA. We're going to talk about a little bit about the career, but going to tap into this great book. It's called After the Second Snowfall, Andre Lacroix, My Life on and Off the Ice. Andre, an honor, a pleasure, and thank you for coming in. What's going on, young man?
But not much, I still play hockey, John, every Sunday morning. I'm 78 years old. I'll be 79 in June. I put a group together about 15 years ago, and I said, guys, if you want to play, I'll play with you guys. But I said, we need to play Sunday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning for an hour. Good workout. Then you can go home. Everyone's still going to be in bed, or you could go to church, whatever you want to do. And I love it. I walk for an hour every day.
Wow.
And then one thing I do, John, is I eat at 4:30 in the afternoon. That's the best thing I could have done, because I used to coach kids hockey, high school hockey, and I used to eat at 8 o'clock, and that's not good. And since I eat at 4:30, it's awesome. And I read a lot. I never read before.
Wow.
I read a lot of James Patterson's book. I bet you I read at least 120 of his books.
Jeez.
Yeah, I read. Oh, yeah, I read a lot. I read about 2 hours a day.
And see these
Keep my brain going.
Right. The subtle changes in the life.
Yes.
I love the thing about the 4:30 being from European parents. My father used to say, this is the time you're supposed to eat, not
That's
7,
right.
8 o'clock. My mother would say, it sits on your stomach all night before you go to bed.
One thing I don't do, and I'm going to have to try it, because my dad lived till he was 99 years old.
Wow.
My dad, for dinner, he always had hot water. Oh, with his meals, he always had hot water. My dad never had a drink in his life, never smoked, but he had hot water with his meal every night. And I said, I need to try that. Maybe it will keep me awake, alive to like my dad,
Wow. But see, those old remedies and proverbs, worked
And
for them.
my dad never went to the doctor.
Never went to the doctor.
No.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, again, I want to just looking back at the career, because like I said, we had you on here 3 years ago, but looking back on the career, it's, I just find it always amazing that, here you had this great career, coming up with Peterborough, and of course the Aces, and then of course you're picked by the Flyers. I mean, you were like right with Bobby Orr at that time in those leagues.
I played against Bobby in junior. Bobby was in Oshawa when I was with the Peach, and Bobby was 2 years younger than I was. You could tell then that he was unbelievable,
Right.
And But, you know, I played with two pretty good hockey players. I played with Danny Grant and Mickey Redmond in Peterborough for 2 years.
Wow.
So
Danny
between the
Grant,
three of
Danny
them,
Grant,
yeah.
and Mickey
So,
Redmond. Yes,
yeah, so the
remember them
three of
very
us
well.
were great. But, you know, all the teams in the OHA then, most of the guys end up in the NHL. That's how good the teams were. I
Right.
mean, Bernie Pront and Doug Faville were in Niagara Falls with Derek Sanderson.
Wow.
Brad Park was in Kitchener. And then Kenny Hodge was in St. Catherine. I mean, Toronto Marlies, I think, was the best team I ever seen in junior. That's when they had Mike Walton, Pete Stemkowski, all these guys. Their average weight was 185 in
Wow.
junior. They were bigger than most of the NHL teams at the time.
At the time, sure,
Yeah.
sure. And you
Yeah.
know, Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, because I only played at the amateur level here in
Right.
Illinois. But correct me if I'm wrong. My son and I, to this day, have an argument. He says, "Oh yeah, hockey today, they would have killed the Lacroix and the Parks." And I said, "No." I go, these gentlemen were vying for 6 teams to make 6 teams. This was the best of the best, not to make 35 teams. Am I wrong in saying that?
Oh, listen, I don't watch much hockey anymore because
No.
I don't enjoy it,
No.
to be honest with you. Because if I made the mistake that a lot of these guys are making now, I would have been sent back to the Quebec Aces,
Right.
to be honest with you.
Right.
Okay. And then, you know, they're talking about records, you know, and I always say to me, you know, Gordy was the best of his time. Bobby Ho was the best of his time. Gretzky was the best of his time. But Gordy got all his goals with 6 teams.
6 teams.
You know, and they only played 60 games then, not 80.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so when you think about it, and Gordy had to fight his way through things. They had people watching Gordy all the time. They had people watching Bobby Hall all the time. They don't have that anymore.
No.
You know, so the game has changed completely. I think the guys are bigger, they're faster, they're not as smart, that's for sure. You know, and it's a dump and chase.
Yes.
When I play with my group on Sunday morning, I say, guys, if you dump the puck, you're not playing with us anymore.
Right.
That's it. And I'm serious about it. I said, work on your skills. I don't care, you're 50 years old, whatever. Work on your skill, lose the puck, you know. And I coach high school hockey, and I told the kids, even when we kill penalties, we don't dump the puck. We go for it. We try to score for that. Work on your skills.
Right. Move the puck.
But the skills are different today.
Yes.
They don't teach the kids.
It's just, and I'll be honest too. I'll turn on the team here in Chicago, which was a horrific season, even though they got the #1 pick, Bedard and everything else.
Yeah.
But somebody said to me, "Can you compare?" To me, this question was asked. Can you compare Connor Bedard to Stan Mikita? I says,
No.
there's no way, but this was a legend, Mikita.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, first of all, I when I saw Connor Bedard played at the before he turned pro,
Yes.
I said he's good, but they might have problem because of his size or whatever, you know. And I said, the thing is, nobody's going to tell me that Connor Bedard or anybody that's the first or second year, give me 5 years of Connor Bedard, then we can talk about him and Mikita.
Right. Very good. Thank you for saying it that
Don't
way.
even think of comparing Connor Bedard to Mikita now, because I played with Stan.
Oh, I know you did.
Okay.
And against him.
Right. And not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, Bedard is a faster skater, better skater. Okay. But he's a good playmaker, but so was Stan.
Yes.
Stan was a great playmaker as well.
Sure.
You know, so I don't like anybody to compare players now to these days unless they played at least 5 years in the league and be consistent for 5 years, then we can talk.
Exactly. No, but thank you for making that point.
You know,
so
your son is wrong.
Yeah. He's going to listen to this, Andre. Thank you. No, and I got to tell you, I've even compared, and listen, nothing against Connor Bedard. What a talent!
I love the kid. I love to watch him.
I could only dream to be a Connor Bedard.
Oh, right? I love to watch him. Great hockey player.
But I'll be honest, and
but listen, It's easy to play on a bad team.
Sure. Oh, yes.
Okay? It's easy to play on a bad team.
Sure.
You're not, don't have this. No, I would like to know what his plus minus is.
Well, I know the plus minus. It's a minus 45.
Minus or plus 40?
It's
minus.
a minus 45.
Right. So I don't think Stan was ever minus.
No, never. And I have to tell you, Andre, and you, when you came up to Philadelphia in that 67, 68 season, you were that guy that they were. This was when that franchise started to change.
But you know that that year, John, I made one of the toughest decisions in my life. I was playing for the Quebec Aces.
Yes.
Okay. And they had 14 games left with the Flyers. Someone got hurt. They called me up to play a game in Pittsburgh. At the time, we had about 15 games left, or 20 games left in Quebec to play in first place. I already had 6 hat tricks. I had tied the record for hat tricks in the American Hockey League. I was going for the record. I get called with the Flyers. We go to Pittsburgh. We tied 1-1. I scored a goal. We go back to Philadelphia the next night. We play Minnesota. We win 7-4. Leon Worsford get three goals. I get 1 goal, 3 assists.
Wow.
The next day, Bud Poor calls me in the office. Instead of telling me, thank you very much, we'll call you if we need you. He said, you make the decision if you want to stay here or not. And I wish at the time he would have made the decision for me, because I had mixed emotion, because I felt at the time that I'm letting the team down in Quebec, to be honest with you. I'm going for a record. But at the same time, as a kid growing up, I never want to play my career in the American Hockey League. I want to play in the National Hockey League.
The National Hockey League, sure.
And I said to myself, the experience I can get the last 14 games will probably help me along in my career.
Sure.
And I made the decision at the time to stay in Philadelphia because of that. I'm glad I made the decision, but that was so hard to make, John. You wouldn't believe it.
I can imagine.
I left. I was leading the league in scoring by about 20, 25 points at the time. They beat me, I think, in scoring the last week of the schedule, I think. I mean, that's all,
But you brought now, like I said, to Philadelphia. Okay. Yeah. Here we have this guy now with Nole, Giga Gendron.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, the following year, Bobby Clark comes, and this starts to see the move in Philadelphia.
Did we talk, John, the last time? When the following year, we had like 6 French-Canadian players on the team.
Serge Bernier.
Yeah.
Iman Nole.
Jean-Guy Gendron. Dick Sarrazin, and then one time we were having a slump, and Vic Stasiuk was a coach, worst coach I ever had in hockey. And then he calls us in the office after practice on a Thursday. He said, I don't want you guys to speak French anywhere.
Really?
First of all, we never hung around together home or away. We never sat together in the locker room. We never spoke French if there was somebody else that couldn't speak French. I mean, we were very careful about that.
Sure.
Well, Friday, we're leaving for Montreal to play the Canadiens on Saturday. So Saturday morning, the front page of the paper in Montreal, not the sport page, the front page, there's a huge picture of Stasiuk. Stasiuk won't let his boys speak French. So Marcel Pelletier was a head scout at the time. He came in the locker room the morning of his skate. We always skate for half an hour in the morning. So he came, he said, we're going to find out who did this, and he won't be here long. Okay. Well, that night we beat Montreal. That's the only night I think we beat them in Montreal.
In the Forum.
That's the night that Simon Ole had a fight with Ferguson, and Simon Ole won.
Wow.
Okay, right. But
never forget number 22.
Right.
Ferguson.
In Montreal, they say Ferguson got hurt by his stick. No, he didn't get hurt by his stick. But then they found out Clarence Campbell was the president of the league. So he brought in Stasiuk, and Stasiuk denied it. Wow. They never invited any one of us to talk. And when they found out, they told Bernie Perron that called the reporters. That's when Bernie got traded to Toronto.
Oh, wow. So they blackballed Bernie.
Yeah.
Because I never understood why Perron went to Toronto.
Toronto would have won the cup that year if Bernie would have stayed there.
Oh, for sure. for sure.
Yeah.
At that time, Andre, he was paired with the great Jacques Blanc, right?
No, well, no, he was playing in Philadelphia. No, he was with Dougie Favell in
Well, Dougie
Montreal.
Phil, but I mean, when he went to Toronto, he was with Jacques Blanc.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Plant was up in age already. I mean,
Right.
he was
Well,
not the
that's when and Plant, he went to there, then he went to St. Louis, and he went to Edmonton, and Plant picked his games to play because he didn't want his goal against average go down.
Sure.
So when he played with Glenn always played the tough games.
Yes,
and
St.
Plant
Louis
played the easy game.
Yeah, it's Jacques was there. He wanted to knit those scarves.
Oh, absolutely.
But I have to tell you, I was shocked, but I was happy that you were coming to Chicago because I was an 11-year-old, 12-year-old boy, 11, 12 years old, big Blackhawk fan. And my friend called me up and he says, Andre Lacroix was traded to Chicago. I go, you gotta be kidding me. We're going to have, and I want you to elaborate on this because your years in Philadelphia were fantastic. So we were shocked that we could get a caliber player like you. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
It says we're going to have Makita, Martin, and Lacroix, and we even had a guy that wasn't too bad named Brian Campbell.
Yeah, Brian was great.
But let me elaborate, and then I'll let you talk. Billy Ray did not know how to use Lacroix and Campbell.
Well, here's what happened. They brought me to Chicago to play with Bobby. Okay? When I got to Chicago, Campbell, Pitt Martin, a few guys came to me and said, Andre, they brought you here to play with Bobby. Don't feel bad if it doesn't work because he tried all of us and nobody can play with him. Okay? And the reason is because, see, everybody, John, that I played with in junior and the pros, both wingers had at least 30 goals a year, all the time. And the reason is because I didn't want an offensive forward and defensive forward because then the other team knows who to check or who not to check.
Sure.
So when I went to Chicago, I felt pressure for Bobby to score a goal because let's face it, when I went to Chicago, the only thing the Blackhawks were interested in was Tony get a shutout, Stan win the scoring title, and Bobby score 50 goals. Then they were guaranteed 20,000 people a game. Okay?
They treated it as a business, right?
Yeah, because Billy was an open and close the door. He was not a coach. He didn't know how to coach, really. He had, let's face it, we were in the worst division. We were in the division with the expansion team. By Christmas, we knew we were going to finish in first place. So I never got a chance in Chicago to play my style of hockey. He wouldn't let me play my style of hockey because I felt obligated to feed Bobby. Well, the other teams know that. So when they know that, that changed my game completely.
Sure.
And I couldn't, and then because Chico Mackey was great up and down the wing, and maybe get a garbage goal, whatever it is, okay? But that's not what I wanted. I want him to get 20, 25 goals. I want Bobby to maybe get 40 goals. But then the whole line would have been good. That's why we got beat 4 straight by the Rangers in the playoffs.
In the semifinals that year.
Yeah.
Yes, in the semifinals.
That's why we got beat.
And then, and again, I'm glad you touched on Ray. Nothing against, we are not talking bad about anybody. God bless Billy Ray's soul. But I'll never forget the 1971 game when they lost to Montreal in the final. McNeil outcoached Billy Ray.
No doubt. But you see, John, don't forget, he didn't have to coach much when you had Bobby, Dennis, and then Stan, and then you had on defense, you had Bill White and Pat Stapleton who played most of the games.
Sure.
So they had a nucleus of players that they could win games with. They couldn't do that today. There's no way in the world they could do that today. Okay, but in those days, because the division we're in, they got away with it. And Billy Reed looked great because, hey, Bobby scored 3 goals tonight, and then people went wild, but that's not the way to coach a team.
It wasn't a team concept. And of course, not knowing the value of an Andre Lacroix that he had or a Brian Campbell.
And Brian Campbell as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I know then who's seeing, of course, the ice time and everything. Now the WHA
Yeah.
is calling Andre Lacroix and the Philadelphia Blazers. Do you remember that time? Were you excited? Of course, I'm sure. Was money a factor? What was the decision for Andre Lacroix to go to the WHA?
Well, I knew that Chicago would have traded me. First of all, Chicago never offered me a contract until the WHA came about. When the WHA came about, Chicago offered me a contract, a 2-year contract. At the time, I had received a call from an attorney in Philadelphia who had gotten the franchise. And he said, Andre, he said, I watched you play with the Flyers. He said, I would like you to come back to Philadelphia. He says, I have no idea what you're making. At the time, I was making $31,000 a year in Chicago. He said, I'll double your salary, give you a 5-year deal.
And this was with the Blazers.
Yeah. I said, I'm gone. I'm gone.
You're gone.
You know? So they gave me, and I had put a lot of clauses in I always negotiate my own contract. I had an attorney to put legal, but I negotiated my own contract. And one of the clauses I had in my contract was if the team gets sold or if the team moved, I become a free agent. So that's why I was never traded. When Philadelphia went to Vancouver, I didn't want to go to Vancouver. And when I went to New York, they said I got traded for Ron Ward. And I said, I didn't get traded for Ron Ward. I went to New York because I figured they have to have a team in New York to be successful.
Sure.
Well, we were in New York for 2 months. So every year that I changed team, I was a free agent. But the main reason is because when I was in Chicago, the one thing that Tommy Ivan did, which I had a lot of respect for, he came to me before the deadline. He said, Andre, he said, Vancouver would like to get you. And I said, if you don't want to go, I won't trade you. And he knew I had a child. I had just moved to Chicago. I said, I would rather not go. First of all, Vancouver was not going anywhere. And we had a chance to go somewhere with the Blackhawks.
Oh, sure.
At the time. So I stayed in Chicago the rest of the season. I give Tommy Ivan a lot of credit for that.
That was a classy move, and he was the general manager then.
Very classic.
Yeah, very classic.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I mean, your start in the WHA, and then, of course, I remember watching something in 1974, and I turned to that same friend and says, look at this. Lacroix and these guys are going to upset the frickin' Russians over here because I thought that series was better than the 72 series.
Yeah. Well, the problem was, I don't think I love Billy. You know, the coach was good, but I don't think he prepared us well enough for the Russians. To be honest with you. Okay.
You played phenomenal in that series. You had like about 7 assists. You were phenomenal.
We were not disciplined enough.
Yeah.
Because the Russian knew if they had a power play, they almost scored every time. Right. So we lost our discipline, and the games were close. And some games I think we could have won, to be honest with you. Okay, but I thought that when he changed the goalie, when we went back the third game, I believe he switched goalies. He switched guys around because he figured there's so many guys on the team, maybe we should get a chance to play. And we felt, no, we want to win. We don't win. You know. And I think that changed the whole series after that.
How was that being picked to be on that team? That had to be another honor of honors for you.
Well, you see, to me, that's the thing. I tell people, I said, I was fortunate. I played 3 years midget hockey when I was 14, 15, 16. And we won 3 provincial championships in a row. That never happened before, never since. And I always had a lot of success at the lower level. Then I played junior with Quebec. I had success. I was the rookie of the year in junior in Quebec. Then I played with junior Canadians with Savard, Boudouillard, Cournoyer, Lemaire, and all these guys. And then, because Sammy Pollock was a manager and knew I was not going to play in Montreal, they didn't invite me the following year to play with junior Canadians. That's how I ended up in Peterborough. Best thing that happened to me. The reason the best thing happened to me is because I couldn't speak English.
Right.
And I learned it in Peterborough. That's the best thing that happened to me. And then I won the scoring title. And the reason I didn't win the scoring title the second year is because I hurt my eye. I got hit and I missed 8 games. I would have won the scoring title. And I won the MVP twice. I beat Bobby Orr twice.
Would you have been close to becoming a Montreal Canadian if that would have happened?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think I was Sammy Pollock's type of player,
Got it.
to be honest with you. Because if I was his type of player, he would have talked to me, and he would have sent me somewhere to get in the summer to train or whatever, I
Sure.
never had a conversation with him. I think because he knew I belonged to the Quebec Aces, and then he would have probably had to work something out with the Quebec Aces to get me.
Pollock, of course, was the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens at that time.
I think he was the best manager in hockey ever.
Yeah. Was he very shrewd type of man where he was always dealing and wheeling?
Well, he got Lacroix.
Oh
right?
God, that was amazing. He tricked.
That was the deal.
Ralph Backstrom was a part of that decision.
That was the deal of the century. Okay.
Unbelievable.
But the reason is because Sammy Pollock always brought in the player. He didn't bring the star, he brought the player that would fit the team to win the Stanley Cup. That's when he brought in Dick Dubb. That's when he brought in Frank Mahovlich. Not because Frank was a superstar. He needed somebody to fit in on the second line that could score goals. But he never flew anywhere to watch games because he was scared to death to fly. So whenever he went somewhere, he went by train.
Right.
Or he had somebody going, and guy would give him a report on the player. I mean, that's how but he made so many great deals. And at one time on Team Canada, I was sitting beside Frank Mahovlich on the plane. And I said, and Frank, great guy, but kind of weird sometimes, And I said to Frank, Frank, I think it's raining outside, looking outside the window. He looks outside. He had to think about it. He said, I think you're right. Like 2 minutes later, And then I said to him, Frank, who's the worst coach you ever played for? He said, without hesitation, Scotty Bowman.
Really? I thought he was going to say Punch Emlak.
No, I said, why? He said, Scotty was good because Sammy put the players there for him. And I mean, he didn't even hesitate, So
wow.
The thing is you look, the Scotty had success because he always had good team. When he went to St. Louis in a expansion team, he brought in Doug Harvey, he brought in Plant, he brought in
all the old guys,
Al Harbor, you name it. In those days, you could win with those guys.
Yes.
So that's why it made sense to me when he talked about, look what Sammy did, and he mentioned the guys that he brought in to fit the system that they were trying to do to win the Stanley Cup, and they did.
Wow.
That's why Sammy Pollock, to me, is the best general manager I've ever seen in hockey. I mean, the most obnoxious guy.
Yeah. But Andre, what a great insight tonight, because I really would have thought that Frank Mahovlich, would have said Emlak, because Emlak gave him such a hard time in Toronto. I have to tell you, your insight tonight brings me to a quick story, but I want to talk about Andre Lacroix more.
That's okay.
Yes. When 1964, Mr. Pollock knew that Mr. Dryden was at Cornell.
Yeah.
A lot of people said, how the hell do you get rid of Roquetan Vachon and Tony Esposito? He knew what was in the pipeline. He made the deal with Boston.
Yeah. And
of course, Dryden stayed on as a student and came up for those 6 games in 71 and shocked the world.
Sammy Pollock always said one thing: give me somebody with size and I'll teach him how to play.
Wow.
Which made a lot of sense, to be honest with you. Because let's face it, I played with LePerrier when he was in junior, and he was not that great.
This was the Jacques LePerrier.
Yeah, he was not that great of a skater, but he had size for those. Let's say in those days, if you were 6 foot, 6'1", you were a giant. In those days,
Sure.
And look at the play they made out of him.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, but he knew talent so much, like you say, with Ken Dryden, but that's all he talked about. He was always thinking hockey, but you also don't forget, when he was a general manager, Scotty Bowman was a scout, Cliff Fletcher was a scout, Claude Ruel was a scout.
Claude Ruel.
Okay, those guys were all scout. And now, and look what they became afterwards, coach and general manager.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Incredible.
and he trusted them, and these guys were all what I call it, they're all rink rats. They love to go to small rink and watch hockey players and come back to Sammy and say, Sammy, this maybe we should check this kid, that kid, whatever, you know.
Wow.
And yeah. So
incredible.
That's why I think Sammy was the best.
Great insight by you tonight. I have to tell you, before we get into a little bit of the book, when you look back on the WHA years, you must be very proud because you were phenomenal.
I'm proud, John. What I get out of this is I don't appreciate when the WHA came about. I never appreciated the NHL players that badmouthed the WHA.
Right.
And the reason I never appreciate that is because when I moved to the WHA, a lot of guys like Schultz, McLeish, Shaleski, they would have been in the minors if it wasn't for the WHA.
Right.
To be honest with you, okay? So we opened the door to so many players, coaches, and everybody made more money. They should get down their knees and say, guys, thank you for doing what you did. But quite a few of them, badmouthed to the WHA, and I think they were so wrong to do that because we changed hockey. WHA changed hockey. To be honest with you, NHL didn't change the game. WHA changed the game.
When they went after guys like Bobby Hull, Derek Sanderson, and Bernie Parent, this was a serious time.
Well, you know what happened with Bobby, right? Bobby thought it was a joke when they offered him $1 million. They offered him $1 million to jump league, and Bobby said, yeah, right, it was a joke, And Ben Haskins went around the league, and he told all the guys, said, I think I can sign Bobby Hull, but we need $1 million, and we all need to chip in.
100,000 each.
Said, okay, we'll all chip in. And then Bobby signed with the Jets.
Then came guys like you, Derek Sanderson.
Well, because I was very close with Bobby in Chicago. Bobby was very good to me. Stan was very good to me. And one of the reasons I jumped league, if I said if it's good for Bobby, it's good for me.
Exactly. And talk about saying thank you the way you did about, these players should think like, the players that you mentioned that probably would have been in the minors. I'll never forget Stan Mikita in the Chicago papers the next day. He goes, I genuflected, I did the sign of the cross, and I said, thank you, Bobby Hull, because now I'm going to get a pay raise from Wirtz.
That's right. Exactly. Because Chicago was known not to pay their guys.
Yes.
Okay. And they were so cheap that when I played there in the playoff, they gave us like 4 tickets for the games or whatever. And the son would come in the locker room and say, by the way, if you don't need your tickets, guys, we'd like to get them back so we can sell them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so nobody give them.
Yeah, you talk about cheap,
Oh, my gosh.
That's like saying I bring the dinner to your house and I take the dinner back home. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Give me some leftover, take home. Right.
Okay. I have to tell you, but the career you had in the WHA, you dominated. You're still, of course, will always be the leading scorer of that league, the all-star appearances, playing with so many great combinations. I mean, no wonder you're nicknamed the Magician. You were fantastic. I mean, you are, please, I don't think because you did this interview, you were the Mario Lemieux and the Wayne Gretzky of that time.
Well, see, the reason I was happy, I was proud of what I've accomplished is because a lot of guys accomplish their success with one team. Sure. I had to accomplish my success with many teams because I had to move on. And a lot of time when you move on, the success is gone because you have to adjust to new teammates and stuff, Sure. And you were talking about Mario Lemieux. And I say, if Mario would not have retired when he did, Mario would have been the greatest ever.
Sure.
That's how good he was.
And he had the battle with his own health problems too, right?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
I'll never forget a line from another great Frenchman, Michel Goulet.
Yeah, great player.
Said, if Lemieux and Gretzky were on my line, I would score 100 goals.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
But because Michel was not just a good goal scorer, Michel was a great player.
Yeah.
You know. But we're talking about this. The same with Mark Tardif, like it's a disgrace that someone like Mark Tardif is not in the NHL Hall of Fame.
Incredible. Right.
You know, and the only reason he's not there because he jumped to the WHA.
Sure. They
How do you believe
blackballed
that?
him. They
He was
blackballed him.
blackballed. Well, see, we all knew that if the WHA didn't work, NHL would take us back.
Oh, sure. Sure.
GC. Oh, no. No way.
Yeah.
Look at GC Trombley.
Yeah.
Come on.
Unbelievable. Yeah, how they put the stamp. I have to tell you, this is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
A chance to read it. This came out.
I had a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, this is fantastic because you give so many kudos to so many people. You talk about almost every, you're acknowledging so many things.
Yeah.
The book came out in 2019.
Yeah.
How has the book done for you over this 5-year period?
Well, you know, it's done pretty good, but you see, Amazon is selling it, and I sold it myself. I sold about maybe a couple thousand books. But you know what I wanted to do, John, is I wanted people to know my story.
Yes.
I didn't want to write a hockey book. I don't read a hockey book. I don't care if Boston beat Philadelphia in 7 games in the playoffs. I don't care about that. I wanted people to know who's Andre Lacroix, you know. And I said, I want them to know my family, the youngest of 14 kids, you know, and how I grew up and how did I make it to the NHL. I want to write something that was never written in the newspaper.
Right.
And I said, then I wrote it in French as well for the people in Quebec. The book is in French in Quebec. So I was proud of the way the book came out because I had a few people that want to help me write it, and they were mostly hockey people. And I found a lady that she came over my house one day, and someone recommended her. I said, I want to write my book. I want you to help me to put it professionally, you know, together. And she was not a hockey fan, which that's what I loved.
Right.
Okay. And we met once a week. She bought a recorder and she wrote things down that I told her. Then I would review it. I said, yeah, this is what I said. I want to make sure that it came from me. Like somebody wanted to help me write, and he said, well, Andre said this. No. Not Andre said this. I said that.
Andre said that.
Right. You know, that kind of thing. So that's why I like the way the book came out, to be honest with you.
It's fantastic.
It's an easy read. It's not too long.
Yeah.
You don't get board, you know.
And of course, some great pictures in here. And of course, you know, your tribute to, tell me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, your tribute to La Zone, Quebec. It's unbelievable.
Great guy for me there.
I mean, it gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because is that you didn't forget where you came from.
Every time I talk to people, I always say I'm from Lausanne and I'm so proud of it. And every time I go back, John, I look because there's still some guys I played midget with are still alive, and I look for them when I go back. I don't want them to find me. I want to find them because we had so much success together. And because I'm the only one that played in the pros, I don't want them to think that I'm special because I made it. Right. They didn't. Okay. So our town was about 20,000 people. And I said, every time I go back, that's the first place I go, and I look for them, and we get together, and we're having a ball. We talk about the old days.
And I got to tell you, what a respect you have for, like, say, if I was from Lausanne and I didn't play at your level and I was your friend, I mean, this is something to cherish. I want you to know that I'm going to be pushing this book because this book.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
I have to tell you, the reason for the second call, and I hope we have a third one because I really got.
I hope so too.
This is just fantastic to read. If anybody is looking for this book, it's after the second snowfall. We are visiting here in the. We have a few minutes.
John, another way they can get it too is that if they want to look me up on Facebook and you know, a lot of people will. Andre, how can I get your book? And I'll say, text me on, you know, and I'll give you the information, that kind of things. You know?
Yeah, sure. You know,
because
and I
have books, and I
have a Hockey Life article site, and I'm going to put that on there. But
again, good.
This book has really just touched me in so many ways because, like you said, it comes from you, and here you were. This for me, and for a lot of people, a super.
You know what,
player.
John? There are three people in the book three people in particular I talked in the book. And I said, one of the reason I had a successful career because I was at ease playing because I had a good tax attorney, and I mentioned his name in the book.
Okay.
I had a good accountant, I put his name in the book. And I had a good banker that I put his name in the book. And the reason is because in those days, when I played with the Flyers, they didn't have like bank franchise all over the place. You dealt with the bank, that's where you went.
Sure.
And I'll never forget, I tell people, I said, Joe Mara was my bank manager. And I said, one Friday afternoon, I called Joe. I said, Joe, I don't have time to come to the bank. I said, I'm short in cash. I could use $100. He said, don't worry, said, I'll drop it off on my way home.
Wow.
That's a kind of relationship. Then when I was playing in San Diego, I still dealt with Joe in Philadelphia. He called me one time and said, Andre, I'm going to move your money from your checking account because you're not getting interest. I'll put it in your saving account. I said, okay, Joe, thanks.
And it was there.
That's a kind of relationship we had.
Yeah. So you were very fortunate, my friend.
I was.
Very fortunate. But I mean, the respect they had for you, thank God it wasn't.
Respect each
Thank God
other.
it wasn't an Alan Eagleson.
Right. No. You know, when I was a player rep, I was probably the only one that was not represented by Alan Eagleson. Everybody else was.
What he did to many athletes, and of course, what he did to
all
Bobby
of them.
Orr.
Look at Bobby Orr. I mean,
ruined him.
Oh yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to play a game of 5 questions, and then I have I have something to say to you at at the end before I let you go. Okay. So I got to ask your first question. Who were still some of those early mentors in your life that you still remember to this day that Andre Lacroix never forgot? If it was your parents, who are those early mentors?
Well, I would say my parents first, obviously, because my parents, the reason I say that, John, is because when I was playing midget hockey, I was 2-3 years younger than everybody else, but I always led the team in scoring. And we would go to a tournament and I scored 3 goals. I would get in a car with my mom and dad. We never talk hockey. They would say, we're going to stop and get a bite to eat. It didn't matter if I scored 3 goals, I scored no goal. We never talked hockey. My dad I'm the only one in my family that played hockey.
Wow.
14 kids, okay? Then Robert Gay, the coach I had at the midget level for 3 years, he became the mayor of Lausanne. That's who basically got the rink name after me. And to this day, Robert is like 93 years old. And every time I go there, we have lunch together. You know, my coach at the midget level when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
Okay. So those are the guys. And I would say the best coach I ever had was Edgitor Cote at Junior B, because he's the one that taught me how to stick handle. He would put a bandage around my eyes, John.
Wow.
And he would say, skate around with the puck. And I'll tell you when you're near the boards in practice. And that's how I learned how to stick handle. And that
the feel for the puck. The feel for
But you know, John, I remember those things like it was yesterday.
Oh, sure.
I don't remember what happened yesterday, but I remember what happened years ago.
And you know what, Andre? I always say it's that first impression. You never forget. Never forget.
That's right.
Second question for you. What is your favorite movie of all time that you can watch 200 times and not get bored?
I always loved, to be honest with you, the mafia movies.
Okay, you should come over to my house.
Honest to God, I watched every one of them. I love the Godfather movies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I love the Rocky movies too.
Oh yeah, such an inspiration.
That's right.
You are an inspiration.
Yeah.
All right. The third question is this: since I'm doing the interviewing, if you were doing the interviewing, and I know who it is, who would you like to interview? But it can't be me.
That's a very good question.
Who would you like to interview in the life? And you can't have me as the interview. Yeah.
I would say if it's a tough one because
I'll give you 2, Andre. I'll give you 2.
Right, because see, I wouldn't want to. I don't think I would want to interview a hockey player. To be honest with you,
it doesn't have to be hockey. Could be a woman.
No, I wouldn't want to interview a hockey player. I think I would love to interview the Pope.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the reason I would love to interview the Pope is because I would like to ask him question like you asked me. Like I don't want to talk about your Ole, whatever it is. I would like to know how was your youth? What
Right.
did you grow up with?
The
Were you
passion.
were you a bad kid when you grew up? I mean, that kind of question.
Exactly.
I would like to know something that nobody knows about him.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, question 4. There's a minute left in the game.
Yeah.
You're the center. Listen carefully. Who's your left winger, right winger, and your 2 defensemen? If Andre Lacroix has got to get that goal, who's his left, right wing, and the 2 defensemen, and who's your goalie?
Okay. My left winger would be Mark Howe.
Beautiful.
Okay. Okay. My right winger would be Danny Lawson. Danny Lawson is the best right winger I ever played with.
Great player in the WHA.
Okay. No doubt about it. Okay. And then I don't know if you remember this. If I was on defense, I would want Bobby Orr, obviously, and I would like Jim McKinney. I don't know if you remember
He
Jim
played
McKinney.
with Toronto.
Okay. Jim McKinney was better than Bobby Orr Jr.
Wow.
Jim McKinney was the best junior defenseman I ever seen.
Wow.
And Jimmy had his out of the ice problem and everything else, But honest to God, he was unbelievable. He was a GC Tremblay, but much better.
Much better.
Okay. And I would want Bernie in it.
You're going with Bernard Marcel? Marcel Perron. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. In your era, who were the top 5 goalies you ever saw?
Okay. I would say you have to. Okay. Bernie's 1. Okay. Kenny Dryden. Pardon me?
Bernie Bedont, yeah.
Yeah. Kenny Dryden is 2. Tony O is another 1.
That's
Jerry
Pizzito.
Cheevers is another 1. And Grant Fuhr.
Oh, Grant Fuhr. Tremendous goalie for the modern era.
Yeah.
And, wow. Incredible. I mean, you have picked some unbelievable players because you played against.
Jerry Cheevers was the first one that came out and poke check you. People always ask me, who's the toughest goalie you ever played against? And I always say Jerry Cheevers. Because you never knew what he was going to do. You didn't even know if he's going to hit you. He's going to poke check you. I mean, he was unbelievable. So I would say those are the 5.
Andre, do you think Jerry Cheevers with the poke check was better than Johnny Bauer?
Well, yeah, the reason is because in those days, all the guys, to be honest with you, like, if you ask me who was better, Johnny Bauer, Jacques Plante, or Glenn Hall, I couldn't tell you which one because the 3 of them were equal.
They were phenomenal.
As far as I'm concerned. Because in those days, they were all good goalies.
Yeah.
Today, you got how many teams in the NHL today? 32, 34?
35? I've lost count.
Okay. There might be 3 good goalies in the NHL today.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, my God, right?
And I think the best goalie, we don't see him, but I think the best goalie's in Winnipeg.
Sure.
But we don't see them because the games are 10 o'clock at night.
Sure. Were you a big fan of Sawchuk?
I was big time fan of Jerry Sawchuk. See, that's what I mean. Yeah. Those guys, if you ask me, I couldn't, John, I couldn't pick one of those 4. You could not pick
one, right?
I would say those 4 were equal. No doubt in my mind.
I want to read a line that's all about you, and this is how I'm going to leave you tonight. It's in your book, and I have to read it to you because it's right there, right in front of me. Every time I open up this book. Okay. And I've even highlighted it in yellow, if you could see the yellow marking. This is for everyone. This is from the great Andre Lacroix. If you love something, you remember it. And I remember every year I played the game of hockey. I remember everything from playing midget hockey as a young teen to being a member of a 10 pro team from 1968 to 1980. And as much as I love hockey, I will always be very serious about the game, and I was always driven to do well. Andre Lacroix, you are a classy man. I am honored to have had you on here tonight. This says it all in that one paragraph. Andre Lacroix, after the second snowfall, my life on and off the ice. Andre, I'm going to say it in French. Merci beaucoup. C'est magnifique.
Mon plaisir, John, and let's do that again.
You
okay?
got it. I don't know how to thank you, Andre.
Anytime.
You got it. I will
Anytime.
get this out to you on social media. We will see this on YouTube and on Spotify. This was fantastic. You truly are a Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate everything. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
good night.
And good night. Thank you.
Good night.